Hey guys, welcome back. And if you're new here, welcome to Her Story Hour podcast. I'm so happy to have you guys here with me. Just to let y'all know, okay, the first one, you got the lashes. This one, you're not gonna get all that. And the other ones, you may get them and you may not. You may get a full face or you may get a bare face. So just to clear that up, welcome. I love y'all. All right, so let's get started. If you have not already, go ahead and click that subscribe button and join our community. It's gonna be great. Okay, so but first I want to say, I think I was putting way too much thought into this whole thing. I was thinking, okay, let me start sharing things with you guys that's happened from when I was younger all the way up until now. But then I'm just like, no. Whatever is laid on my heart to share with you, that's what I'm going to share. And today I was doing my workout. And first off, this little workout, me and my friend are doing a challenge. And I love a good challenge. But oh my goodness, it is, I really do have to, it is a struggle. Every day it has been a struggle doing this challenge, and it's just increasing and becoming more intense every 10 days, I believe. And oh my goodness, I just want to stay at level 1 and I'm gonna be okay. But yeah, anywho, so I was upstairs doing my workout, and the thought came across my mind of what I went through just 9 months ago. So 10 months ago, I gave birth to my son. He will be 10 months on the 20th of this month. And I remember not being able to walk that well, move that well, or any of the sorts, because I was in so much pain. And while I was working out, I was just like, Lord, thank you for just allowing me to even be able to move like this, because I couldn't do it before. And I didn't know when things would even get better for me. But so I had him in October, at the end of October. And the week that I had him, I was already in a lot of pain. And I had a C-section before with my twins, and it was so smooth. Recovery was smooth. Everything was just smooth. But when I had my baby boy, it was a bit different. And I'm just going to share with you guys everything, because why not? First off, the delivery portion of it was insane. Now, since I did have a C-section with the girls, I wanted to at least have, or try to have a VBAC with my next, because, I wanted to experience it, number one, and I wanted my body to kind of heal a little bit quicker too. So, it doesn't hurt to try. So I called and I researched a really good VBAC doctor, and he's phenomenal. He has a great reputation at the hospital. He's great. I ended up going into labor 40 weeks and 2 days. And unfortunately, my doctor was out of town and he could not deliver my baby. So I had to go with whatever doctor was on call that night. And all I was hearing was, oh, we don't know too much about her. She's new here. This and that. I'm just like, whoa, wait a minute. Are you telling me you don't know if she can do a VBAC? Is she I need something for me to feel confident. They didn't give me anything. So I really had to kind of focus my mind and really start leaning more and more on God during that time. So my water broke, and that was one thing that I prayed for. I was just like, Lord, I really want to experience my water breaking. Like, I didn't get to experience it because, they took the girls at 36 weeks. And so I didn't get to experience any of that. And so my prayer was, Lord, I just want to experience all of the things that I haven't experienced. So he let me experience my water breaking. I remember I woke up at it was like 2:50 a.m. I remember trying to turn over in my bed because he was just so heavy. So I slept on one side and was trying to turn over on the other side. And as soon as I was like turning over, like my belly was like right here, I just felt it felt like a rubber band just went. I was like, what in the world was that? And literally, like, this, I don't know if this is TMI, but anywho, water just came rushing down, and it kept rushing. And I woke Nick up, and I was just like, oh my God. Oh my goodness. What are we gonna do? I remember just standing there like, what do I do? What do I do? It's like, should I get in the shower? What should I do? So I literally got in the shower, got out the shower, still pouring. And like 30 minutes after my water broke, I started feeling contractions. And I was just like, oh, it's happening, And so we had to get the girls up. We had to take them over to our good friend's house. And we just had like a whole plan, and everything was working out perfectly great. We made it to the hospital. I was starting to dilate and pause because, y'all, so a week before this happened, I literally tried doing a concoction. I'm not going to tell y'all too much about that, but let's just say it put me in early. It wasn't even early labor because I thought that I was just starting my contractions and all of that. I just messed things up. They sent me home. It was just all bad. Anywho, so let your body do what it needs to do when it does it. Period. Don't mess with nothing, because I did, and I ain't gonna ever do that again. But so yeah, we took the girls, and so everything was working out. I was dilating. I dilated to like 7 centimeters. It's like 4 o'clock, and Nick was at the store getting food. I was like, you need to get back on over to this hospital because I might be about to deliver. I remember Nick came back, and I haven't had an epidural yet. So everything, I was tackling these contractions. It wasn't bad for me, but all I needed was silence in the room while I was contracting, and everything would be okay for me. So at 4 o'clock, I was 7 centimeters dilated. Now it was about 7 o'clock p.m. and I was still 7 meters dilated. And they can still feel the baby's head, the hair, and all of that. But I just wasn't dilating anymore. And so they were just like, well, let's go ahead and give you an epidural just in case we do need to do a C-section. And I really didn't want to do a C-section, but I just knew if I really had to, I would just have to say, forget my thoughts, my beliefs, and let's just do it. They gave me some things that could help me dilate some more, but that didn't work either. And so it was around 11 o'clock, 11:30. They're just like, okay, let's go ahead and take you back and do a C-section because, my water broke already. It's already been almost 24 hours. So they took me back to do the C-section. And they wanted to do that before anything got crazy. Like, they didn't want me to have an emergency C-section. So we went ahead and did that. I remember being back there for a long time. I was gagging a lot. I wanted to throw up a lot, but I couldn't because, I hadn't had anything to eat for over 24 hours, I believe. Yeah, had to have been over 24 hours. And so yeah, it was just a lot going on. They were putting like alcohol pads where my nostrils were, but it was getting really crazy. Um, but then I remember the doctor leaving because she had to go and do a C-section for somebody else. And I remember being in that room and just laying there like, oh my God, what is going on? What's happening? What are we doing? And she finally came back in. She started to perform the C-section. During that time, I felt like the cutting. And I'm not going to say I felt the pain of it, but I felt the discomfort of it. And I just felt like they were just cutting everywhere in my stomach. And it was so bad. I asked them, I was just like, where else did y'all cut me? They're just like, oh, just one place. I was just like, okay, but I mean, so come to find out, I just had a whole lot of scar tissue too. And that was, it took a while to get to the baby because they were cutting through a lot of the scar tissue. When it was time to get my baby boy out, all I remember was first, all the nurses were just looking down at whatever was going on because it just felt like something was just not right. And I was just asking Nick, what's going on? Is everything okay? Like, what is happening? I'm seeing like some concerned looks too. So I'm just like, bro, I need to know something. And Nick just kept calming me down and rubbing my hand and all of that stuff. And I just kept feeling like just a lot of yanking and jerking and like my body's just literally moving like this, And then I just hear the nurse say, okay, on a count of 3, we're going to get him out. I was just like, okay. So I'm literally hearing these nurses and I'm feeling everything. And they're just like, 1, 2, 3. Like I heard all of that and I felt that. And I was just like, what is happening? And they literally like just, I don't know how they did it, but to me, I'm just saying they yanked him out. This is what it felt like. But he finally came out. And everything was well after that. Everything was cool. But I remember going back to my room. It was like 1:30 a.m. I was like, oh my God, I was back there for a long time. So yeah, that was that. Now, a couple of days later, I just started to experience other kind of pain. And I kept asking the nurse, like, hey, I'm experiencing some really, really bad pain. And I don't know what that is. And she said, let me ask about that. She asked the other nurses. And they're just like, oh, well, she was open for a long time. So, that might just be really bad gas and this and that. I'm just like, cool. Okay, I understand that. But it wasn't going away. Matter of fact, it kept getting worse and worse and worse. And I remember going home and it was so sad because I was finally able to see my girls and they came and they were running towards me and trying to hug me. But it hurt for them to even hug me because even just like touching my stomach was so painful. I mean, talking about pain, like I couldn't even touch it. So imagine me trying to breastfeed my son with him kind of laying on my stomach too. Like it was very painful. I was taking all of the medicine from the C-section all together and that was barely touching my pain. And every time I got up, especially in the middle of the night to use the bathroom, I remember just trying to hold my stomach up because it felt like everything was dropping when I got up from either sitting down or laying down, which was the worst. And it just felt like everything was just dropping every single time. And I was just like, oh my God, this hurts so bad. And it wasn't even from the scar. Like, this was on my stomach. A week after I had them, I ended up going to the emergency room. And the doctor told me that I had something called ascites, where it was like fluid around my stomach and in my pelvic area, and that I would have to deal with the pain for the next 4 to 8 weeks. And I was just like, what? Who about to do that? And I was just like, so there's nothing that you can do about my pain right now? And they're just like, no. No, you're just gonna have to go home, continue to take the medicine, or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And I was literally crying, especially when they were bringing that wheelchair in for me to leave. Like, I can already barely walk, and y'all sending me home. I didn't, like, what? So yeah, I went home, and my doctor, I had a follow up with him, 2 week follow up. He said the same thing. Well, if it's ascites, you're gonna have to deal with the pain for the next 8 weeks or whatever. I'm just like, this is insane. So a week and a half after that, I just started, and for me, I didn't know what that was. I was like, oh, I have like a little fever. I don't know what that is. So not until we had guests over the house, we were playing like a game that I was hosting, and I was really just trying to survive. And when they left, I was just like, Nick, can you bring me a blanket? Because I am freezing and shaking and all of that. So I was literally just sitting on the couch, just shaking or whatever. And he brought me a blanket. That didn't help. He got another blanket. That didn't help. I was just like, okay, let me take my temperature because something ain't right. I'm gonna take that. And it was like 103.9. I said, okay, I'm going to the hospital because I don't know what's going on and something don't feel right. So I called my mom. She came up here to watch the kids for the night. So when I got to the hospital, they drew my blood, took my urine, all of that. And they came back. They were just like, you are really ill. If we're going to have to admit you in. I was just like, okay. Yeah, that's fine. I'm just like, okay, what's going on? And so they did a CAT scan. They found out that I had an 18 centimeter abscess on my uterus. So it was like, I don't know. He described it as something like about that big, whatever, on my uterus. It was super huge. I still looked like I was about 7 months pregnant, by the way, too. And so I was just like, what? And he said that it is infected and all of that. And I was like, wow, 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 wow. Wow. Maybe this is what they saw before and they thought it was something else, So they admit me, go to a room. I went on a Saturday, but they didn't start anything until Monday because people were off on Sunday. They had to put a drain in my stomach in order for the abscess stuff to come out. They could only do that on Monday. So when I put the drain in my stomach, automatically stuff just started coming out. I know it's a lot, but it took about 30 minutes to even get, I think it was like 1,000 milliliters, and it just kept coming out. During that time, my kidneys started to mess up. I was texting my friends, and they were just like, Tori, what's your GFR and all of that? And I was just like, it's a 9. They said, no, ask them what your GFR is. I said, oh, okay. So I asked them, I said, what is my GFR? They said a 9. So I text back, because I don't know what it is. I don't know what that means. So I text them back, and I was just like, yeah, they said it's a 9. They said, Tori, it's supposed to be at least 59.9. I was just like, wait a minute. How sick am I? Like, what is going on? What is happening? So I am so sick that I don't know I'm this sick, right? And I'm still smiling. Like, I had people come to the hospital to visit me. I'm still just, smiling and everything, not knowing what's actually happening inside of my body. That day, the kidney doctor came in and he was just like, hey, we're going to have to possibly start dialysis on you tomorrow. And we're going to possibly have to put it through your neck because I had everything else going on in my stomach, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, I think I started crying when he told me that. I said, dialysis, what? What? So when he left, I was like in such a shock. I started texting my friends, calling them, and, they started praying for me. Some started fasting and all of that. I was just like, oh my goodness, like my kidneys are really damaged right now. And because I was taking a lot of antibiotics and a lot of other medicines too during that time. Plus I was trying to breastfeed and pump. It was just a lot. And I couldn't really do that because of the medicines that I was taking too. Everything was just going crazy. And I was really trying to keep my cool. And my husband really, when I tell you, he came through for me so much during that time. And I think that's what was kind of keeping me really calm, because he was calm throughout the whole process. Every time we got bad news, he took that, he processed it for himself. And for me, he was just calm. He never freaked out. He never panicked. Even though he was on the inside, he never really just showed me during that time. And that allowed me to just stay calm. So I really do thank him for that. So the day that they were going to put me on dialysis, they said, well, let's check you one more time and see if there are any changes. And they did. And it went up to like 10. So it went from a 9 to a 10. And they were just like, well, let's just hold off on the dialysis and let's just see if it starts improving. And I was just like, oh, like, so no dialysis at all? Like, I don't have to do that at all? They're just like, no. We're just going to see if it continues to improve. And if it does, then we should be fine. It's going to heal itself. I said, oh my God, look what the Lord is doing. So he was really working in that. They thought that I was bleeding on the inside because I was pooping out blood. Sorry, TMI, but I gotta let y'all know the real. I was pooping out blood, and so they thought I was bleeding on the inside. So I had to even go in for like a little procedure and they had to put me to sleep and everything to like check the inside to see where I'm possibly bleeding. And thankfully, by the time they did that, things looked okay and things looked healed. Even during that time too, my pressure started to go all the way up and was like 200 and something over whatever. And mind you, I've never had like these health complications before, ever. So everything is just all new to me. So when they saw that my blood pressure was like rising rapidly, they brought these machines in to make sure I wasn't about to have a seizure. And they're just like, well, we're going to have to send you to the ICU because we got to put you on some magnesium drops. And we're going to have to get that pressure down, this and that, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, what? What? So they literally rushed me to the ICU to get all that hooked up and done. And even with that, I started just throwing up and people wanted to come see me. And I was just like, don't come see me because I'm a wreck right now. I don't know what's going on. It was just a lot. It was a whole lot. So I ended up staying in the ICU for like 3 days, if not more, because the hospital ran out of rooms. While all this was going on, like, I'm missing my baby. So I ended up being in the hospital for 2 weeks. So another thing that started to happen was my blood was dropping. So that dropped down to a 6. And it was supposed to be at least a 13. And it kept dropping down to a 6. So I was losing blood. So they ended up doing 3 blood transfusions on me to get my blood going, like just to build that back up. But even after they did the first one, they checked it, it went a little high, but then it kept dropping back again. And then I had to get another transfusion. I mean, it was just, then they checked my iron. My iron was really low. So I had to get an iron infusion. And I was just like, oh my God, I am overwhelmed. And even throughout that whole time, like my arms are bruised because of all of the IVs that they had to put in me. And sometimes they would work, sometimes they wouldn't. And I believe my arms just got so irritated. The last IV that they tried to put in me, they tried to put antibiotics in me, and it hurt so bad to the point I was like eating my soup while she was doing that. And I had to like just stop eating. Like my fork almost just fell out of my hand because it was so bad. So she had to stop giving me the antibiotics, and they had to come up with another solution because my arms could no longer take IVs. They had to put a PICC line in me, and that was so much better, so much more smooth. But then that started messing up. Then they had to put a PICC line in my other arm. And I think it was like towards the last day, I started to get a migraine. And it was that day where I actually kept my son because, he was only a month old. So I needed him. He needed me. I kept my son overnight, and my head was hurting so bad to the point it just even hurt to take care of him. And I was just like, okay, I think I made a mistake. Because at that time, too, Nick went back home to be with the girls because they had came back from being with their grandparents. And I couldn't wait for him to come back to the hospital that night because, I was struggling so bad. And with the migraine, I couldn't lay down. I couldn't sit up. It was like when I stood up to walk, it was okay. But as soon as I sat back down, it was all bad. I was still really, really weak too because I could barely eat. So I was telling them, like, look, I am ready to go home. Like, can I take this drain home? Like, what can I do? So they started just to figure things out for me. And thankfully, I was able to go home. But I had to go home with the PICC line, with the IV, to continue to take my antibiotics. And I also had to go home with like a little sack for the drain because it was still draining. The good thing was I was able to go home. And I came here. My best friends were here, Shan and Dee Dee. And they came down. They drove like 10 hours to come be with me too and to help like with the kids, whatever I needed help with. And even just to come to the hospital, make me laugh. And it was just, I just loved them so much. They were here at the house when I got home. And I was just so glad to be home. And I remember waking up that morning and seeing my children. And I remember the doctor told me, well, he told my husband, he was just like, she could have died from this. If she didn't come in, she could have died. And when I heard that, I was just like, Lord, thank you for speaking to me that night to go to the hospital, because what if I went to bed that night and just started to ignore everything else, and it would have been over. So just to be able to come home, to be in my own house, to be in my own bed. Oh, that hospital bed was brutal. But to be in my own bed, to be beside my husband, to be where my children were, that was the biggest blessing. I don't want to cry, but it was the biggest blessing. First off, you really never know when your day is going to end or come to an end. You can be so near to death and you don't even realize it. God has probably saved us so many times from dying and we don't even realize it. But I was able to realize that I was near death and God saved me and healed my body. I remember I was starting to feel really confused though. I was like, God, why in the world did you let me go through that? And a lot of times we can start thinking about things in life and be like, is this why I'm going through this? Or is it because I did that? I feel like you don't need to do that. God has a way of allowing things to happen in our lives, and it's how we handle it. I don't know why I had to be in the hospital for 2 weeks with a 1-month-old son and my baby girls, like we had to figure out a whole lot during that time. Who's going to keep them? Who's going to keep my son? It was just a lot that my husband had to go through as well because, he was concerned. He was worried. Like, I can see it. Even though he really didn't say it, I could see it in his eyes, It brought me to a place, too, of not really talking to God after that. And I think it's because I was so overwhelmed. I was just like, what? I don't know why you brought me through this. I don't know why I had to deal with this. I didn't know. I just didn't know. And I think the more I was thinking about it, I was starting to really get overwhelmed. My prayers just started to come less and less and less. And when that happened, I just started to feel more lost. And I remember just stopping and asking God, like, okay, Lord, why did you let me go through that? You know what I mean? Like, and for me, like, I wasn't mad at God. I was just very confused. Like, what did I do, Lord? Have you ever had those moments like, Lord, what did I do? What done happened? Like, what did I say something that caused this to happen? Like, show me, Lord, because I don't want to do that again. And I remember him saying, I did that because I want you to remember your purpose. I want you to remember that you still have a life to live. And for me, that was enough. Like, a lot of times we can go through life and think that you don't have anything else to live for. Like, I've done everything. I've gotten things that I've prayed for. So now, like, what else is there? But that moment was a reminder for me that I still have a purpose. I still have a calling on my life. I still have things to do. And if I didn't, God wouldn't have brought me through that. But what I also got from this was like, not to live in the negative, like not to live in the situation that I was in. Like, I don't have to mope around and say, oh, I don't know why I experienced this. Oh, I was in hospital for 2 weeks. Oh man, I had to go through this, I had to go through that, this and that. Yeah, there's a testimony in that, but sometimes we can like continue to live in that. You know what I mean? Like when God makes a way to bring you out of something, the plan is to get out of it, but sometimes we continue to live in it. That's the same with like relationships. God has probably caused you to get out of that relationship, and he has made a way for you to get out so many times. But sometimes we want to dwell in it, live in it, continue to live in it. And that can just damage us even more. And I think that's what I was doing too. Like when I wasn't talking to God much, I was continuing to live in the why. Like, why in the world did I have to go through that? You know? And and we really need to have that mentality of purpose. Like when you do experience a friend dying or your family member dying, yes, you grieve it, but don't die with them when you're still alive. You know, a lot of times we can really put all of our energy in that where we're dying with the dead, but we are still alive. You know, we begin to get depressed. We begin to get all of the things that, you know, you're not supposed to be. The thing is, God is trying to tell you, you still have purpose. You still have, I still have things for you to do. They did everything that I called for them to do. Now it's you. It's your turn. So with everything that I went through, it was just a reminder for me, like, I'm not dead. I'm not gone. I'm still alive. I can still breathe. I can do the things that I want to do. I can still enjoy life. In May, me and my husband went to Mexico. What a time we had. We can't continue to live in doubt. We can't continue to live in relationships that are dead, that you don't need in your life anymore. You can't continue to live like that. It's just going to drain you. It's going to confuse you. It's going to bring you further away from God because you're kind of forcing yourself to be in something that you don't have to be in. You know, so for you today, I want you to know that you still have a purpose in your life. You still have a reason to live. And if you don't know that reason, it's time to find it. And even if it takes some time, I don't want you to go through life thinking that you don't have anything left to do, because you do. You just have to find it. And in order to find that, you have got to find God. When I feel lost, I know that I'm far from God. Like my purpose is in God. Anything that I have to do is in God. Like it's so important to really find you in God. If you find you for yourself, by yourself, you're not going to get anywhere. You're just going to be hitting a wall. And it's just going to be a cycle of hitting walls. And your head going to be real bruised out. Okay? No, but you really do have to dig in and lean in on God. Whew, God has been dealing with me about leaning in on Him. And especially like with emotions, with things that's happened before in the past, like I can't dwell on that. You know what I mean? Like it's okay to feel, it's okay to have emotions, but you cannot lean on your own self for that. You really do have to lean on God and take all of that stuff to Him and allow God to really, really transform your mind and heal your heart. You have to, because I tried to do it on my own and it did not get anywhere at all. We all have a purpose, y'all. We all have a purpose. You have a purpose. You have a life to live. You have dreams. You have all of that. So find it. Find God and find that purpose. Find you. It's time to do that. And let this be a reminder that if you're not in the grave right now, you still have life. You still have life. You don't have to mope around. You don't have to be depressed. You don't have to. It's the decisions that we make to live in something. But you can get out of it. God can help you. if you do need help, if you do just need someone to talk to, of course you can find a therapist. But even if you just need someone to talk to, you can talk to me. You can talk to me. I ain't gonna bite you, okay? No, but yeah, I just want you guys to be encouraged today. Like, just live. Like, you can live. You can do things. It was my close to death experience that really opened up my mind and opened up my heart to Jesus. And he has really changed me. He really has. And I know for some of you guys out there, I feel like God has been really knocking at your door and really trying to tell you something. And you keep ignoring it. But it's time to stop ignoring it. And it's really time to find that relationship with him. And with the relationship, it literally, you just need to talk to God. And you ain't got to do nothing crazy. Oh, Father God. Oh, Jesus. Oh, I need. Now, if that's your style, by all means. But, yo, just talk to him. Like how you would talk to your friend, like how you would talk to your mom, or whoever you feel comfortable with. Talk to him in that way and find out who he is. And I promise you, he's going to meet you, but you have to believe that God is real and that he can come for you and that he can live in you. Because God is just right here. He's always with you. And one thing that makes us feel lost is ourselves. Like, even though God can be right there with you, because you don't have that relationship, you just don't recognize him. You don't notice him. You don't know what his presence feels like. You don't know what his voice sounds like because you don't have that connection, that relationship. So I just want to tell you guys to get that. Dive in, dig in, and find out who Jesus is, because I had to. I really did. Plenty of times in my life. It really wasn't just one time, but I mean, a journey with Jesus is like an everlasting thing. Like, it doesn't stop. You know what I mean? Like, you do go through things in life. You do deal with things. You do have the times where you just completely cut God off. But that doesn't mean you gotta stay cut off. You know what I mean? Be in your feelings, but come on back. Period. Be in them feelings. It's okay. Feel them, but come on back. You know? So yeah, I want to encourage y'all to live. Don't be dead with the dead when you're alive. Live and do what God has called you to do. All right. So thank y'all for watching Her Story Hour. Thank y'all for listening and letting me vent and all the things. So yeah, make sure you subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, and tell somebody else about it. We are going to start having some amazing guests too. So be on the lookout for that. Thank you for tuning in. I love you guys so much, and I hope you have an amazing day. And I hope you find your purpose in life, because it's in you and it's right there waiting for you. All right. Love y'all. Bye.